Some people complain that the stock Glock pistols aren't grippy enough, and they can solve this in a couple of ways. These are two examples of some Glocks that I've modified, and hope you can see the pros and cons to each of them. First one, this is a Glock 19. This pistol, 9mm, 19C. Very few modifications to this gun have been performed. I changed Meprolite night sights, which I like. I like the just simple 3-dot sights on here. And then I added a grip on here. This is a rubber Talon Grip. So this is probably your simplest sticky solution onto the gun. This grip you can buy off Amazon, you can buy online from other retailers, and it molds around or fits around the grip of your gun. There's no modification, no burning, cutting, anything that's needed on here. It will add a slight amount, you can barely see it on here, it will add a slight amount of thickness. If you're like me, I have medium hands, this will just fill up my hand just a little bit better. I prefer a slimmer grip on the gun, but this will give you a good rubbery texture on here. When you apply this, make sure you read the instructions. You apply it and add a little bit of heat, and it'll kind of shrink down and constrict onto where you put it. It's actually not that difficult to line up properly, and you can see I didn't do anything with the finger grooves. It's still on there. I like this quite a bit. Advantage to this, it doesn't require any kind of modification to your pistol. Disadvantage, it will add a little bit of grip, and it will stick to clothing a little bit better, or a little more affirmatively than just the straight up plastic on here. So this is something that you might want to consider for like a duty pistol, or something that you don't really care if clothing adheres to this a little bit. This is a very similar pistol. This is a Glock 32. Same gun, chambered in 357 SIG instead of 9mm. This one's not compensated. Both of these are Gen 3s, by the way. And this one I've actually done a little bit of grip work too. You can see I cut out the bottom of the trigger guard. I also spray painted that and gave it a bit of a battle-worn kind of look, but don't worry about that now. I cut out the bottom of trigger guard by the finger area, and this is for my support hand up here. You can see on Instagram or YouTube a lot of people doing this. I also heavily stippled, by heavily I mean put some pretty big dots in here with a soldering iron. I drew a pattern up around the outside, sanded down slightly, reduced the grip over here, slightly took off some of the finger grooves, just left the bumps of them, not the full groove itself. The purpose of this was to try to mimic my Walther P99, so a subtle finger groove, but nothing like this with hard ridges. And then when I put on my the stippling on here, it actually caused a little bit of this material to raise up. It kind of cratered, I guess, the pistol itself, but it's kind of back to normal at this point. But it is a solid grip on here. This is like plasticky sandpaper, whereas this is kind of rubbery. There's also an option like the Talon Grip that's a sandpaper texture. The sandpaper one is a little thicker than what you have on here. Your choice, whatever you like a little better. Sandpaper will absolutely just tear up your shirts if you carry something inside the waistband with the shirt on top of it. This gun will tear up your shirts too. This is more of a kind of a home defense pistol, so, and I do keep this one in a safe, not my primary safe. Now, if you were going to carry your pistol a little more, what I would recommend, if you are going to do any kind of stippling on it so that it doesn't tear up your clothing and it's a little easier to draw, is I would just stipple the back end and the front end. This is a Timberwolf compact frame, but this is something that I stippled a while ago, and just this back plate was stippled then I kind of added on this front piece as well. This frame grips a little more naturally in my hand. I like the angle of it. I like just the overall feel of this a little better, but I also carry this gun quite a bit. So I want this relatively smooth. Now this is just the stock. There we go. This is just the stock texture here, and it's not bad at all. I keep this grip on here. Obviously you can't take it off. If you mess it up, you've ruined your frame, which is a big deal. It's essentially ruining your gun. But I keep this one on here so that if there's anything that's going on where I'm sweaty, wet, bloody, just messed up in a general sense, I can grab onto this and it's not going out of my hand. People can, you know, twist this around and you've got to do some damage to my hand in order to take that out. Also, 357 SIG recoils quite a bit more than a ported 9mm, so it's nice to have that extra kind of grip on here. It helps keep my hand locked in, so I'm not readjusting. If you ever see people at the range, they do that, and then they kind of readjust every couple of rounds. That's because they don't have a good grip on the gun. You want to be able to lock onto it. You don't have to put a death grip on, just lock on, and if it starts to, you know, shift around, then you need to do something else to keep it on. You can see 9mm and 357 SIG are the same bore. It's different on the other end. The 357 SIG is like a 9mm plus P plus every time you pull the trigger. 9mm is just an easy shooting caliber, plus the porting makes it really easy to shoot fast. This guy, same thing, but just recoils a little harder. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.